what a weekend the captain is having. Sam Saliba with the deflection off of the blast by Rosberg. 1:10 to play. Spartans take their first lead of the night.
Don't look at Rosberg down there, getting his arms, waving them up, getting his crowd into it. They're into it for sure. Michigan State with 2 third-period goals.
5 seconds left in regulation. Into the zone on the far side.
That's it.
That will do it. The Spartans with the win over the number 3 team in the nation, Notre Dame. The final score, Michigan State 3.
Welcome into the Michigan State Hockey Hub weekend preview show as Michigan State at 11-18-1 is set to take on Notre Dame, who is 21-9. And this weekend, or for this weekend's preview, I have a special guest. Ryan, can you help me pronounce your last name again?
Radosevich.
Radosevich. Sorry about that.
Just rolls off the tongue. It's
a good hockey name.
Very good hockey name.
Very good hockey name. So Ryan is with Impact 89 FM Sports. Ryan, how long have you been there?
I've been there for 2 years now. I've covered MSU hockey in both years. Obviously, haven't seen the best of MSU hockey in the last 2 years, but I love doing what I do, and hey, I'm glad I could do it for the radio station.
Do you have a well, first off, where are you from?
From Farmington Hills, Michigan, so roughly about an hour east of East Lansing. Yeah. So, go home every so often. It's kind of nice, but grown up in Michigan pretty much my whole life. Luckily, my sister was born in California, so she's got that on me, but me, no. Just Michigan my whole life. I love Detroit sports, love MSU, and glad to talk some MSU hockey with you.
So have you been a Michigan State hockey fan your whole life, or is this something that you came around to once you started covering the team?
Mostly once I started coming to MSU. My dad has been a huge Detroit Red Wings fan his whole life, so obviously I watched that growing up, but we never really made it out to many Spartan games. But now that I'm going here, I'm like fully into Spartan hockey. I just wish the record was a little better, but hey, that may come soon.
Yeah, and right now their record isn't what anyone wants it to be at 11-18-1. A big part of that is they have 10 losses in a row, all in the Big Ten. It's completely more or less ruined their season, dropped them to the bottom of the Big Ten, which is a place that they're pretty familiar with. So as we look at this team right now, what do you think is going wrong with Michigan State?
So obviously you could point at the easy things to point at. Lewandowski and Loughran have been out for a while. We'll talk about that later. But the biggest thing for me over the stretch of losses is MSU has yet to put together a full 60 minutes of play. You see it game in and game out. Danson Cole talks about it in the pressers after. It seems like they could put a period together, a second period together, but there's the lack of the full 60 minutes. It's like we saw it this weekend against Michigan. During the second period, 10 minutes go by, Michigan scores 4 goals, and it's over from there. It just seems like they take just a little bit of each period off, and that bites them in the butt so bad. So that's why. And then another reason why for me is definitely the turnovers and the sloppiness of play because of this 10-game losing streak. It's hard to keep your cool, and MSU has definitely, I wouldn't say gone off the hinges too much, but they haven't played as solid hockey as they were earlier during this 10-game losing streak. They've had a lot of sloppy turnovers and also a lot of sloppy penalties that they didn't need to take.
Right, and the second period has seemed to be difficult for them. In terms of just most common period. Now, don't get me wrong, first and third period hasn't been stellar year or this entire year, but the second period seems to be a huge struggle. And I've been preaching about the penalties literally since I started doing the show, the very beginning of November. So many times during this year, there's a few specific players I won't name that continue to just take penalty after penalty after penalty. But the amount of frustration penalties or penalties 150 feet away from the net, it's just what are you doing? The stupid penalties have really hurt this team. And that everyone commits penalties. We know that. But when you're a team that struggles to score and you go on the PK, not only does the chance of them scoring improve, but that's 2 minutes or so in which you're not on the attack mostly either. So you're taking away 2 minutes of ice time where you're more likely to score. So it's really a double-edged sword. But, this season is what it is at this point. There's 2 series left in this year. Notre Dame this weekend, Penn State after. Both are at Mun Ice Arena in East Lansing. What are some takeaways we should be looking for in these last 2 series? What do you want to see, and also what do you kind of expect to happen?
So in these last 2 series, I do expect MSU to come out with a lot of firepower because they do still have something to play for. Sure, they're last in the Big Ten, but if you take a look at the standings, Penn State is above them at 17 points. Wisconsin's above them with 20, and Michigan State has 14. So if you take that into a whole and look at it, Michigan State can still jump into that 5th slot, which if the regular season ends and they're in that 5th slot, they get to take on Notre Dame in the Big Ten tournament. The reason why that's huge is because if they can take on Notre Dame in the Big Ten tournament, I think they have a chance on taking that best of 3 series, but Minnesota and Michigan and Ohio State, the other top 3, I don't think they could take a 2 out of 3 series. Obviously, hasn't looked good this year, but MSU has something to play for. They're playing at home these last 2 series. They want to finish out the season strong. They don't want to finish out the season with a 14-game losing streak, and they have something to play for in the fact that they could get that 5th spot in the Big Ten. So I expect them to be coming out firing on all cylinders, angry, and ready to get a home win for sure.
Yeah, and this is a team that is a program that has never won a Big Ten tournament game.
Yeah.
Like, if you can do that, that's, as sad as it may sound, that is a step in the right direction. And it's kind of, I don't want to use the term pathetic, but kind of sad that it hasn't happened yet. But
yeah,
in order to win some games, they're going to have to produce more offense. And I know that's not their style to put up 6 goals a game or anything. They don't have that firepower. But over their 10-game losing streak, they have scored 3 or more goals twice. What do you think is holding this offense back right now?
So obviously Lewandowski and Loughran being out really hurts. Without them, there's really no solid second line that steps up and challenges right now the first line, in my opinion, of Minnendorf, Jesse Tucker, and Jeremy Davidson. I think they're not on the score sheet or the stat sheet, the top line per se, but Dan, if you follow Dantico over the last 2 years, he doesn't really put his top line as the top line. He just puts lines as lines. So for me, it's having a second line that's just been absent. And because of them, obviously, it's hard to create a good second line. But on top of that, it's also, I want to see the upperclassmen step up in particular. We've seen Susanna have a couple good series, but other upperclassmen, juniors like Mueller and Nodler, a little bit of Jagger Joshua, it seems like they could step up into a bigger role, and they've just been, I don't want to say absent, but it's just they haven't really propelled the offense that much. And then other seniors like Goodser and Matson, you hope that they would get the offense going with a goal early in the game, but it just hasn't happened, and they've had to rely on most of the underclassmen for the scoring. I talked about the Minnendorf, Tucker, Davidson line, but I just want to see the upperclassmen depth step up in some way. Just get one goal to get the team going. That's something that hasn't really happened much. I mean, last series against Michigan, Christoph Papp and Jagger Joshua did get some power play goals, but that was at the end of the game. That was when it was 6-0. So it didn't really matter. And I like to see some upperclassmen depth stepping up in these last couple series for sure.
And I've mentioned this before, but it's a team with a lot of bottom 6 type guys. And when they're playing in the top 6, it shows. Jagger Joshua is a physical player with some size who gets to the net and is a pest to play against, and that kind of describes a good bottom 6 guy, and it's nothing to take away from him at all. He's a talented player, but when you're asking him to play a more offensive role and try to score more, it's a little bit more difficult. I think every single goal he's ever scored that I can think of has come right at the net. Not really a guy who's going to be putting much pressure on unless he's almost in the crease. So, but, with Michigan State's offense struggling, it's not the best combination compared to, or the best matchup when you look at Notre Dame. They're 7th in the nation in goals. This is a team that has 3 different players with 10 or more goals, and their number 1 goal scorer, Ellis, has 16 goals. What does Michigan State have to do to try to limit this offense that Notre Dame has?
So for me, I don't know if I have the same view as other people when watching MSU hockey, but I'd say the answer falls into the MSU play style. And what I mean by that is MSU kind of plays I don't like this cliche that much, but the bend but don't break offense or
Sure.
defense. And what I mean by that is they will let teams shoot the puck, 30, 40, 50 times a game. But what they do well is they limit the high percentage chances. Obviously, against Michigan, that didn't really happen too much. We're not going to talk about that. But most of the season, they've been able to play the bend but don't break well enough to the point where they'll get in the way of high percentage shooting lanes. They'll block those shots. They'll get a stick in the lane, but they'll give the other team the easier shot. And Drew DeRitter and Pierce Charleston, 2 very, very capable goalies. When you play that play style well, that's when it thrives. And in my opinion, we saw that earlier in the season with MSU. They did it well. They were 8-5-1 at one point. I'm sure a lot of non-conference play, but they played that play style well. Now it's not working that much, but I think Notre Dame always plays down to not always, but usually plays down to competition, and that's where MSU can thrive, playing their play style well and really bringing it to Notre Dame.
Yeah, and when you have a goalie like DeRitter and Charleston, those are 2. I mean, as a tandem, that's an extremely strong group.
Oh yeah,
And they've saved games and they have stolen plenty of wins from Michigan State this year. I'm not going to sit here and act like MSU has this phenomenal defense or anything, or even a strong shutdown pairing or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, it's not. If you told me that DeRitter and or Charleston stole a game or 2 this weekend, would not surprise me. I've seen it so many times this year. And coming I just feel like I keep going back to just the lack of offense, because in reality, you have to score goals to win. That's how you win a hockey game. If that's news to anybody, you probably shouldn't be listening to the podcast here. But looking at Notre Dame's special teams this year, penalty kills the penalty kill is 19.6%. That's middle of the pack, I believe 29th in the nation out of just about 60 teams. So, that's the power play. The penalty kill, 92.7%. Number 1 in the nation on the penalty kill. Michigan State has the 15th ranked power play, which is up from 3rd to last from last year, a stat I tweeted out earlier.
When I look at this, that.
Yeah, last year's power play literally, I think, had 5 or 7 goals all year long. It was probably the most atrocious thing. It was almost like commit a penalty and put them on the power play, because we know they can't score that way.
Yeah, it was rough.
Notre Dame's penalty kill is really freaking good.
Oh yeah.
If Michigan State can't score on the power play, how will they score this weekend? I mean, what is the strategy to try to put up some goals this weekend against Notre Dame?
So the first one, and the amazing one, if it does happen, would be if Lewandowski does come back. Datsun Cole has changed his stats from week to week to day, so there is a chance. I don't actually know if he's going to come back. I would lean towards he is, but I think it's a 50-50. I think it's up in the air. And obviously if that happens, that would be huge for MSU. But if that doesn't happen, I'll go with another great hockey cliche. I love my cliches here. Just throw pucks on net in any situation. You saw against Michigan, Susanna scored a goal in the duel in the D game, just throwing it to the net, bounces off a body, goes over Portillo, and then boom, it's in the back of the net. That sparked, I would say that sparked MSU's offense, but I think that was the 4-2 goal. And then,
that's the way that when you have a team that's not filled with high level skill players, you need puck luck and you need to outwork the other team.
Yes.
And throwing pucks on net generates rebounds. I don't care how talented you are. putting in a rebound's a lot easier than trying to snipe at the top corner.
Mhm.
And maybe it is just, let's see if we can spray pucks. This is Penn State's kind of motto forever. Just how many pucks can we get on net? Because you're not likely going to stop them all. I'm not saying it's the best strategy against every team or whatnot, but man, when you don't have a ton of players who are going to be generating their own offense, throw the puck on net, get deflections, have it bounce off a body. I mean, I feel like, and I know we talked before the show started, you're an NHL guy, and I'm a big NHL guy too. Two totally different games from college. I want to make that clear. The skill level is totally different. I think in the NHL you see all the time pucks off the defender's leg. I just feel like you see it more in the NHL, just like crazy bounces or like the rebound put-ins. And maybe I'm completely wrong. That's just how I feel. But I don't mind that. Hope is not a strategy. You can't just hope that you get good rebounds. But I mean, this team needs something. And if you put some player in front of the net, we saw Tanner Kelly had a phenomenal redirect goal a few weeks ago. I need more of that. How many times have we even seen a redirect attempt or a player in position for a redirect? I don't know. Crowd the net some, fire some pucks in. The defense has started to produce some offense, honestly. Nash Niehaus had how many points duel in the D? I think 3 points, 2 goals, maybe.
Yep. 2 goals, 1 assist.
Maybe the defense is going to have to be a little bit more aggressive with pinching in. That's not really typically their motto, but yeah, like it's usually not a good sign when we're sitting here talking about like kind of like junk goals to try to win a game. But
yeah,
hey, if that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. And if Lewandowski comes back, that's a huge game changer.
Yeah, any goal that MSU could get in any favor, it could bounce off 2 skates and in. They will go nuts and celebrate at this point because they will take anything in this 10-game losing streak. And also the point about how we don't see as many dirty goals in college hockey compared to the NHL. I was kind of thinking of that. Yeah, I don't see many like just dirt bag right in front of the net, stick it home off a leg or something. I don't see that often, and that is the Jagger Joshua special. So who knows? Maybe we'll see that this weekend.
Yeah, it's crazy when you watch professional hockey and you just think like you see redirect goals or attempted redirect goals that just barely miss, and you're like, oh yeah, it's not that big a deal. Then you realize just like how crazy of hand-eye coordination you have to have, and like it's incredibly difficult. Those players are beyond skilled, man. I love watching the NHL. It's a different game though. So as we look at Notre Dame's goalies, I found this interesting. They have quite literally a split, 16 games each. Bischel and did we figure out the best pronunciation here?
I tried to figure it out, but we're going to go with Galasha.
And those of you who are listening on Spotify and don't know what we just said, Galajda. I've seen him play a few times. I don't know why. I can't remember. I don't watch a ton of Notre Dame hockey. These are almost a clone of each other. Each have played 16 games. Bischel, save percentage, .924. The other goalie, save percentage, .922. 0.02 difference. And I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think the goals against for both are 2.07 and 2.08 or something that close.
They're the same.
Either way, and like I said, I've watched, I think, 3 games this year of Notre Dame. Both are pretty good goalies. Mm-hmm. I mean, Notre Dame's a good team. They're 21-9 for a reason. And for some reason, and Ryan, I want to hear what you have to say about this. It feels like Notre Dame's a little bit more beatable than a lot of teams that would have that type of record, that type of PK, this type of goaltending. I don't know why. It just feels like, I guess because I've seen them lose to like a Wisconsin, and it just feels like they're a little bit more beatable than some of the other teams in the Big Ten that are kind of in that other tier.
Yeah, you talked about how they lost to Wisconsin. I think that series was 2 weeks ago. If you actually take a look at the game, I was doing it on Behind the Mask with Jacob and Cam. Yeah. You should listen to that, by the way.
I do. I am a religious listener of that.
Yes, there we go. But we were talking about how I definitely lost what I was going to say there. Oh yeah, Wisconsin game. Sorry. So we were talking about the Wisconsin game from a couple weeks ago, Notre Dame versus Wisconsin. If you take a look, they lost 5-3 against them, and the shots were, I think, 42 Notre Dame to 15 of Wisconsin. It was a statistical anomaly of a game. That game, and then there was another game that Notre Dame had against Niagara, a non-conference team that they lost, and Niagara is not that strong of a team if you don't follow other hockey, but it seems like Notre Dame just has these games where they take them off and they play down to their competition. And I've seen that happen against when they face MSU over these past 2 years. It's always a close game. If you look at the series earlier in the season, the first game, MSU goes up 2-0 very early. I think 2 minutes into the game, they lead 2-0, and then they eventually lose that game 3-2. But super close game. Notre Dame's a good team. They won that game. The second game, it was 0-0 through regulation. They went into overtime, and Lewandowski ended it 1-0. So there's another statistical anomaly type game. How often do you see a game end 1-0? So
Yeah.
Notre Dame, they play down to teams, and they play down to MSU often. So yeah, I see this game. I'm licking my lips at this game if I'm a MSU skater. I see a big opportunity at home to end the Schneid here and hopefully get back into the win column for Michigan State.
The first step into winning this game is getting out to the early lead. And I know that's kind of, I mean, is this just a cliche hockey podcast at this point? I mean, what is this? I'm talking about how you have to score goals to win. We're talking about getting pucks on net. I mean, get pucks deep, finish your checks. Well, I mean, what am I missing here? But
got to play a complete 60 minutes. Yeah, we're doing everything right now.
Yeah, exactly. Clean changes. So Notre Dame, when they score first, record 15-1. I mean, that is crazy. It's not even like luck at that point. That's too large of a sample size to just be some crazy luck. I mean, 16 games when they score first, they're 15-1. Michigan State doesn't always jump out to an early lead. If they do in this one, if Notre Dame does in this one, just 15-1. I don't know what it is about that, but they play well with the lead. And, it's just going to help the chances for Michigan State if they get on the board first.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to point out that stat before we move on to keys to the game. Ryan, what are a few keys to the games this weekend, Friday and Saturday night at Munn Arena?
So once again, just loop back to the cliche, play a complete 60 minutes. Like I said, they have not done it this calendar year, in my opinion. And in my opinion, they're a good enough team too. You saw earlier in the season, I liked how they played. Obviously, that was with Lewandowski and Loughran, but just playing a complete 60 minutes will go a huge way for this team. And also, if they could just find a way to take a lead into the third period, that would be amazing. I think the energy at home, the fact that they want to break this losing streak, if you go into the third period, just 20 minutes left with a lead, that will give them all the energy, all the boost that they need to win the game. I think the last time that they had a lead going into the third, or the only time in the 2022 season they had a lead going into third, they lost against Wisconsin 3-2, but that was their closest loss in all of 22. It was a 1-goal loss. I don't think they've had another one like that in 2022, but it's playing 60 minutes of hockey for MSU. And if they could give themselves an extra incentive of being tied or taking a lead into the third, that'll give them all the energy they need in the world to break the streak.
Yeah, no, I don't even have anything to add. I totally agree. So let's move on to the predictions. What do you think is going to happen Friday night? I have not had anyone hit their predictions this weekend or this year, I don't think, maybe once. And I started off 2-0 in my own predictions, and I don't think I've hit anything close since.
Oh, no.
So, the ever important predictions that everyone,
yes.
takes very, very seriously, I'm sure. So,
yes, definitely go on to a sports betting app and just put down $100 on whatever I say. Just kidding.
Exactly.
That.
Yeah, take it to the bank.
Oh man, I am terrible at picking games. But do you want me to try to predict the score or just who's going to win Friday, Saturday?
Both. I mean, hey, it's an open slate. You can predict who's scoring the goals. I don't care. We just need winners and whatever else you want to add to the game.
So over these past 2 years covering MSU hockey, it seems like MSU is more of a game 2 team. It doesn't seem like it that often this season, but if you take a look at the seasons in a whole, usually they do better in game 2s, usually, keyword. But for me, I think on Friday, it's going to be a close game, a little bit back and forth, but I think Notre Dame will pull away. I'll say 4-2 on Friday. And then Saturday, I'll go with MSU breaking the 11-game losing streak at Mount Ice Arena. Give me the Spartans to win 2-1 in that one. Hopefully, maybe with Lewandowski back. We'll see, though.
I like it. I'm going to go with a win Friday night. And the reason why is simply I do not even want the opportunity for the home crowd to do any type of booing. 11 losses in a row, any type of booing or ill will towards the team and whatnot on their home ice. Second to last week, I hate
hearing that. Yeah, it's just
I would hate that. So this is a win that they really, if they get swept this weekend, it could really be ugly. Give me a win Friday night. Give it to me 4-2. Give me a Jesse Tucker empty net goal to seal the game. Finally, something for Spartan fans to cheer about. Saturday night, I'll take it. I'll go 3-1 loss. I think they're going to be, still be able to kind of steal one 4-2. I think they'll fall Saturday night. And I only picked it that order because I don't want people sour come to the game Saturday. But
yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. You all can follow him on Twitter as well. So you all do the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you give a little, because I listened to that podcast, and Behind the Mask. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, where we can find it, and how often it comes out, what day, whatever type of promo you want.
So I, with Jacob Stinson and Cameron McLaren, both 2 hockey beat coverage people for Impact 89, we do a podcast called Behind the Mask, BTM for short. It usually comes out every Thursday, sometimes Friday, but we record every Wednesday. We break down what happens the weekend prior. We preview the series, the upcoming series. We talk sometimes about extracurricular stuff like the future of Danton Cole as a head coach we talked about last week. And I like the coverage you got on that too. We also do some like fun pick'ems at the end where we try to predict the game and try to predict games across the Big Ten. That's not going too well for me. So if you want to follow
what is your record?
My record, right? Oh, I mean, we just keep a tally in points, and let's just say I'm last with 33, following I think it's 39 and 46. So I'm not doing too hot this
season. Who's winning?
Jacob's winning right now.
I should have had Jacob on this week instead of me then. I mean,
yeah, no, he's confident with his picks. He would be out here saying, "Oh yeah, MSU for sure winning this game."
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to try to get those guys on eventually.
Oh yeah,
I try to do a mixture of Michigan State people, and if I can get a Notre Dame person to come on to talk about Notre Dame, because sometimes I think it's good to hear a lot about the other team, especially the first series of the year. And then other times I want to hear more about MSU. So, but either way, thank you so much, Ryan. We really appreciate it. Go Green.
Thank you.